So right now we've got our enemies moving back and forth in the game, and at this point they do not have any impact on our player. There's no interaction whatsoever. So what I want to do is look at some different ways we can address how the player and the enemy should act when they collide. Now I'm going to do this in a series of 3 videos, and this time I would suggest don't code at all along with the videos. Instead, I would watch all the videos, and because I'm not going to give a single way of doing something. I want to show like kind of different options you could take. So I would watch all the videos and then decide what you want in your game, and then go back and scrub through the videos and pick out code from the parts that reflect what you want to do. All right, so I'm going to get out of the way and go ahead and get started here. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is just make something happen, right, when the enemy hits the hero class. So I'm gonna let the hero handle all the enemy interactions. So I'm going to add a new function in here, which will be just def check enemies. And I'm just going to copy this line right here. And we're going to grab the hits. Only this time we're going to check enemies. And then let's loop through the hits. So we'll say for enemy in hits and print oof on the screen. This would be a good place to put a sound effect in later on, but let's just see if in fact we're detecting the collisions. All right. So I'm over here. And oh, I know what I forgot to do. Of course, we have to go into the update. If we want it to happen, we actually have to say self.check enemies. Okay. And I just noticed one more mistake, but I'm going to let you see it before I correct it. All right, so I'll go over here and I'll wait on them to hit me. And it printed oof, and it printed oof again, but that was weird. The enemies disappeared. And why did they disappear? Well, I copied my collision detection from the items, and in the items I have it set to true, where the items remove themselves from any sprite groups once they are part of a collision. We don't want the enemies to do that, so I'm going to change that to false. So at this point, right here, and we're colliding with an enemy, and it prints oof whenever we're colliding with an enemy. So something is working reasonably well. Now, it printed oof a lot, and that's going to be related to another problem here. So, let's give the hero an attribute. So we're going to make it kind of like a modern platformer where they have hearts. And so we'll start out with 3 hearts. And so when I go down to my check enemies function, not only do I want to play a sound, but I also want to say self.hearts minus equals 1. And at this point, I don't have any graphical display of my game statistics, like the number of coins or gems or the number of hearts. So we'll just print it again. We'll worry about doing this graphically in another lesson. But we'll print self.hearts. And so let's watch what happens. Let me jump in here, and I'll just wait for them to interact with me, to intersect me, and we'll look over here, and we'll watch my hearts get printed. Okay, and so I'll kill that. And you can see what happened here is, my hearts went, I had 3, and in the first frame I was contacted, it went to 2, it went to 1, it went to 0, and my hearts quickly went into the negative. And that's because when these enemies touch the hero, right, they may be overlapping the hero for several frames, and we're losing a heart, right? The way we've coded this is we're losing a heart every single frame that there's an overlap. So even if I were to try to, let's say I got hit and I try to run away real quick, I still, in just that little bit of time it took me to resolve the collision, it took me, it got rid of all my hearts and then some. So my character would be dead at this point. That's not how we want our game to work. So what we need to do is after a player gets hit, after the hero gets hit, Let's think about subtracting a heart, but giving the player maybe a brief period of invincibility where the player has time to jump or run away or do whatever it is to resolve the collision. All right, so what I'm going to do is go into my hero class, and I'm going to do another one kind of related to kind of group and trying to group these things. This is my little, image location section, my movement section. This will be my health. So I'll do self.hurt timer, and I'll set it equal to 0. By the way, it is raining really hard right now, so if you hear a lot of background noise in this video, that's what it is. Let's see. So hurt timer is 0, and then this will be the items and other stats that I eventually put into the game. And what I want to do is when I get hit by an enemy, right, I am going to set the hurt timer to some positive numbers. I'll say self.hurt timer. And I'm going to try 1.0 times FPS. And so this is going to be something I measure in seconds. And so I'm just going to do 1 times FPS. So my hurt timer is going to last for 60 frames. And then, so what I can do is, when I loop through the hits, I can say, if self.hurt timer is equal to 0, then we'll worry about detecting the collision. And then otherwise, I'll just say self.hurt timer minus equals 1. Now this 1.0 number, this is 1 totally. I'm going to mess with it and see maybe a second is too long of an invincibility period for me to need to get out of the way. Okay, maybe it's too short. So I can put in any decimal number I want here. If 1 second is too much, try changing it to 0.75. Again, when we're initially creating this game, a lot of these numbers we throw in are just guesses, and we won't be able to really pick out a good value until we play, get our game closer to finished and play it out and test it. So, all right. The other thing I'm thinking about right now is just because I'm going to allow decimal numbers here. If that's actually, I can just change that to, because we're going to allow decimal numbers right here. It is possible, let's say my hurt timer gets set to 30.5 or something like that. What could happen is we start subtracting 1 a whole bunch of times, and we never actually land on 0. We just go past 0. So I'm just I'll say if self.hurt timer is less than 0, we'll just say self.hurt timer is equal to 0. Right? That way, I'm subtracting 1 every time, but if we end up in some situation, again, where this is a decimal value, I don't want to skip over 0. Well, if we go below 0, we'll just set it to 0, right? So what's going to happen now, hopefully, we'll test it out, is on the initial hit, right, my hurt timer is 0 when my enemy, or when my hero starts out. So when the hurt timer is 0 and I get hit by something, it's going to go through here and see what enemies we hit. But the hurt timer will get set to a second, and we'll have a little bit of time to resolve it before we start, getting oofed again, shall we say. So I'm going to go over here, and I got hit, and then I got time to jump away. Okay. And so, all right, so that seems reasonably good. Now we have some other options. And, so that is, once my player hits the enemy, it's kind of weird. I think that the enemies can just pass right through my player and there's no apparent physical interaction between them. I'm just losing a heart. And so what I would like to do is have these enemies nudge the hero somehow so you can actually see that there was an impact. And I've got, 2 possible ways of handling that. And you can pick and choose and borrow bits and pieces of each, or pick one you like and modify it so the physics work right for you. But I'll do those in two separate videos, and so this is a good stopping point for this one. I think this one is, hopefully this makes sense. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions.